Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dudes
Sup?
Without a Clue podcast. I'm your host Pratosh, joined by my co hosts
Yeah.
Adri and Rushil.
Hey,
Today's
Adri
episode
here.
Conspiracy Theories. Rushil, you want to say hi or
Yeah, hi.
hello?
Hi, yeah. First
You went
times, first
AWOL on us
times,
for a
first times.
second.
It gets you. All right.
How have you guys been keeping for the past few days, man? Past 7 days of our 21-day
I
situation.
mean, I generally don't go out much. Once in a week, maybe. So I don't really miss that. I'm just sitting, covering myself with a blanket, watching Netflix, a lot of Netflix. And also, we have a lot of competitive exams coming up, right? So studying for that, I guess. Nothing much. Yeah, I started a workout routine as well. So that's going well. How about you, Adri? What's happening with you?
Oh,
But not like I had many plans for socializing or something, so I'm fine there. Nothing changed from before the boards and after. I just stayed at home now permanently, and it's getting to me. Cabin fever. And while you get, I mean, it's not as hot as where I'm recording, which is on the roof, but it smells like a dead rat. I'm sure there's one here somewhere. Okay, guys. So today we're gonna try and figure out conspiracy
bro,
theories
I will
and
edit.
why people
Yeah.
believe in them, the types of people who propagate them, and some standard Alex Jones type stuff.
Yeah, and
Right.
also we're
So,
trying to steer away from those mainstream conspiracy theories. We're trying to pick up something which is not discussed a lot. So, yeah, Pratosh, I think you
I
should
just want
start.
to laugh
Go
at
ahead.
stupid
What do you
people.
have in your mind?
Okay, go on.
today's episode, on for my part, I'll be talking about really, I just want to discuss H. Ohm's life and a few things that are debatable about his life,
That,
Who is this guy? Who is
mainly
this guy?
regarding his kill count. So H. Holmes is considered by many the first serial killer that America has seen. He
Okay.
had a really ugly last name, Mudgett. So
that's sad.
he changed his name later on to H. Holmes.
Yeah,
It's
like
such a sad name to have.
Herman
Herman Mudgett.
Mudgett. Like, if he wasn't going to be a serial killer, he'd
Nah,
just be like an accountant or a cashier or something. He seems like a
bro,
discount Harry Potter character. Like they chuck him in Hufflepuff immediately, be the first guy to die.
he's Hufflepuff, yeah.
Yeah, just
So,
I think if he changed his
so
name, I
my
think he
man,
did a pretty good job
yeah, I mean like
changing his name.
H. Holmes sounds pretty cool for. When was this happening?
this happened. He was born in May 16th, 1861. He died 1896. He didn't really have much of a long life,
I
but
mean, for the 1800s,
yeah.
that's pretty solid.
So it's pretty sad.
Okay,
But
yeah.
okay, so
he's
let me
involved
get on
in
with
murders,
this.
I forget.
Yeah. So he was born into, contrary to most other serial killers, this guy was born into a really wealthy family. He was super smart, and he was like super interested in medicine also. And then there's this really bad thing, or let's just say really, his curiosity got the better of him. This dude used to trap animals and do surgery on them,
Okay.
and by surgery just cut them up
And now we're
and
living
gave
in
the
a era.
excuse of
We're
it
living
being a
in an era
surgery.
where people are doing surgeries on grapes. Okay,
That
moving
joke was
ahead.
bad, but I laugh at it.
Ah,
God, that hurt.
no, no, he
That
brought back a
hurts.
beef. No,
We leaving that in.
out.
You deserve the embarrassment.
I'm going to
Fuck you.
ignore.
You're
I'm
taking
going
that
to
out. You're
ignore
cutting
that it
that out.
happened.
Piece of
Okay,
shit.
Right?
yeah. So when did he decide he wanted the mustache?
Yeah. So he decided he wanted the mustache when he decided to change his name to H. Holmes. And wait, by the way, he attended medical school at University
Hey,
of
that's
Michigan.
nice.
And
I saw it.
wait, and here's the best part. Listen to this. In 1884, he was nearly prevented from graduating when a widowed hairdresser accused him of making a false promise of marriage to her. My man,
So what? He was like a player.
he, I mean, if you look at his face, I wouldn't say so. I mean, maybe that
Yeah.
mustache is,
I mean, he's rich.
it did the work in the 18th century.
Wait, I gotta see this guy. Hold on. Oh
He
my
looks
god.
like Watson, if Jude Law's Watson from Sherlock Holmes, if he like made out with a beehive.
No, he looks
That's the best way I can describe him.
he looks like Dr. Watson if he was a
He was a
pedophile.
pedophile, right? Not Watson, I mean H. Holmes.
I mean, Yeah, he killed. He didn't. So most serial killers usually initially have like a target audience that they
Target
want to
audience.
murder.
Hmm.
Like some, yeah, like Jack the Ripper went after women.
Yeah.
Some people go after men. Albert Fish went after men and small boys. So this guy didn't really have anything. He went after anybody who would possibly give him money. And how he did this was, so wait, before we get there, let's go let's move back to 1886. So he's done with college, almost couldn't graduate because of the entire marriage proposal thing.
Like we're not graduating because of the virus.
He moved to Chicago and took a job as a pharmacist. And this is when he changed his name to H. Holmes. And he started killing people. I speculated that he started killing people for their property.
Okay.
Oh.
That's all. He murdered people, took their property.
Like a good American
There was no,
citizen.
there was no,
I mean,
yeah, there was no personal vendetta or anything.
I mean,
He
quite
just
different
wanted their
change
stuff.
of tone, right? See, he as a kid he used to do surgeries on many animals you said, and now he's killing
Yeah.
people for properties.
So he's a career criminal.
Yep, because he realized money's important. Yeah,
Huh.
and honestly, I, it's really it's most of what he did you can't do in today's day and age, but he took advantage of the inefficiency of the system that they had then, and fully
Hmm.
exploited it.
Ah,
Hmm.
So what he did was he had a building. I wouldn't call it a home or a
he had
house.
a murder hotel, right?
It was a, yeah. So how it was it was a fairly, it wasn't, when you say, like, the term people used to give for it was murder castle.
That's so cool.
Murder castle sounds like it is a big
That,
place,
that
but it
sounds
wasn't.
really metal.
It was like 3 stories tall. Yeah, it wasn't really. It wasn't. It didn't look all that fancy. It was some 3-4 stories tall. The basement was its own thing, which we'll get into later. So the murder castle was equipped completely with secret passages, trapdoors, soundproof rooms so people couldn't hear them screaming,
Oh my
and
god.
doors that once you entered in, you can't come out, and they'd be locked from the outside. And there'd be gas jets attached to those rooms to asphyxiate the victims. And in the basement, he had a whole kiln to cremate the bodies. Like, my man, he had a whole
I mean-
system.
So he built this. He had this thing built.
I mean,
for
that's what
himself?
happens when you don't have Minecraft, man. As a kid, you have to express yourself somehow. Uh, also,
Yeah,
didn't he
so
have like these greased slides
my man,
that he could use to chuck bodies
Yeah,
straight
yeah.
into acid pits or something?
yep, yep. He had everything, bro. You imagine it, he had it. Like, this guy was dangerous. And let's get into two things that he did during this time that helped him collect money, right? First, he required all his employees to carry life insurance policies, naming him as the beneficiary so he could collect the money after killing them, and then would
Smart.
sell the bodies to local medical schools. That's part A of money collection. Part B was he'd seduce and murder a bunch of women. But how he'd do this was he'd get to know them, get the entire relationship which started, get engaged to them, and then kill them to secure their life savings.
That's
Jesus. Yeah, I mean the mustache works, right?
he has he's got his the
Yeah,
fact,
I
I mean, look
mean-
at that hat though. It's
Yeah, dude. I mean,
he's got a nice guy.
genuinely speaking, not considering him being a serial killer, for a guy he looks pretty dashing.
for an 1880s guy maybe, but like if you see him
Yeah,
without the
I mean,
hat,
yeah,
he's got
exactly.
like a
Maybe
he's
ladies
got
like
like
that
a
kind
bald
of look
spot
in
on the back of
1880s.
his head. Wait,
Yeah.
when you search up H.H.
And
Holmes,
here-
the first thing that pops up is Meghan Markle related to H.H. Holmes?
I know exactly. That's what I'm saying right now. And it's not just Meghan Markle,
I-
even Leonardo DiCaprio.
I don't want to know. I really don't want to know if they're related. But we will get into somebody related to him a little later on when I talk about another possible theory regarding H.H. Jones. But before that, so while he had this entire murder hotel running, right, he was killing numerous women. People are straight up disappearing, but nobody seemed to notice. He was getting richer and richer each time he killed people. The hospitals didn't seem to care that this guy is just donating skeletons. They're like, it's fine, it's cool, okay. They just kept paying him. So in 1893, of all the things this guy could have been arrested for, none of the murders, no. So he set fire to his own home and tried to claim insurance for it.
An
Oh,
American
So he was
classic.
arrested for that.
this guy is really into money.
Yeah.
I mean, he's on that grind.
Insurance fraud is what he was first arrested for. Bro, it is a little bit of a deviation, but Albert Fish, another serial killer, while he was busy killing, numerous children, he was arrested for stealing horses, not the children, because nobody knew that he was killing
Also,
children.
the thing
What?
with H.H. Holmes, I'm just quickly reading up on him. Didn't he do all of that stuff during the World's Fair or something so people didn't notice?
Yeah, the World Columbian Exposition in Chicago.
Is that relevant?
Not really. It's the main thing was this guy had two tactics. He'd have employees take their insurance, and he was good with women, so he'd engage, get married, kill them, take their life savings.
So basically, you put up an
So,
act
let's-
before he gets the money.
What?
Huh?
So basically, he's putting up an act, right? So.
Yes,
wa-
so
was
Yeah,
he,
yeah, yeah.
what's
was
the-
he
Puts up an act, yeah,
was he
basically.
diagnosed with something, or was he just really
This was in the
money frenzy?
1800s. They would have diagnosed him with death, probably. So, what we need to work with is. So, what was the conspiracy behind him? I mean, so far this seems like it's pretty well known.
So here's the thing, right? So we are talking about a hotel that he ran for a few years,
Yeah.
frequently killing off everybody working there, frequently killing off everybody who came there to stay. Okay, yeah. So one more thing. Nowadays we have bunch of apps and easy ways to book a hotel room. Back in those days, you'd go to a hotel directly and see if there was a room available. If not, you just sleep on the road.
Correct.
Right. So we don't know how many people actually ever came into the hotel. He wouldn't obviously keep a
Record.
diary of who and
I
all
mean,
came and who went.
with some serial killers, they do write it in the diaries and stuff, right?
That was the most the best hotel in his town was his.
Wouldn't it smell after a point? Like,
No, dude took all the dead bodies to the basement
That's
and
neat.
burned them. Yeah, and some dead bodies he just do surgery on them, look inside and all that fun stuff. And again, he wasn't much of a serial killer for the point of killing people. This guy had money on his mind,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
yes.
that kind of led to his downfall too. So after his insurance fraud, the fire at his home thing, he had an associate. The associate's name was Ben Pitzel, and what he wanted to do was to defraud an insurance company by faking
He
Ben's
actually
death.
killed Ben, right?
Yeah. So I'll get there. So what happens was Ben buys a $10,000 life insurance policy, and then after that he moves to they go basically after buying the life insurance policy. He kept that on hold, right? He concocted a scheme. Oh my god, he concocted
Just
a
edit
scheme
that
with
out.
an associate Ben. Concocted. And the entire thing that he wanted to do was to defraud an insurance company by faking his death. So they first buy the insurance policy. It's a $10,000 life insurance policy, and then Ben and Holmes, they travel around the country and commit other frauds. So now they have this insurance policy on hold, but they aren't exactly sure on how are we going to get this plan moving. They just knew this is what they were going to do. They're going to fake his death and they were going to take the money from it, right? But he didn't really have a set plan on how to do something like this with his own friend and how to get his friend back into the real world, etc., etc.
Yes.
So I told you just now that he traveled around the country and went to different places and committed
Yeah.
different frauds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was arrested for one of those frauds and he was sent to jail. There he met a guy. He met a guy by the name of Marion Hedgepeth.
Who's that?
And this guy is like, okay, I understand what you want to do with this guy Ben. I'll help you do it. I'll help you do it if you give me some of the money.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened was he was like, okay, fine. He figured out, this is what we're gonna do. And now it's at this point there's a lot of like, we don't know what's going to go on type, right? Like this is where the conspiracy theories start as to what exactly happened. The most prevalent theory is that when Holmes was released from his jail, he went and told Ben the plan that the person in jail told him, Marion Hedgepeth.
Okay.
It is speculated that at this point, Ben did not want anything to do with this plan.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, it's okay, I paid for the insurance policy, I don't want to commit any fraud, this is a bad idea, because this guy ended up getting married while he was in jail.
Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
He got married, he had like 5 children.
How long
He was
this
settled
guy
in life
his
in the
jail?
time. Like, huh?
How long was this guy in jail that the other guy had
So he
5
already.
kids?
No, it was not all. It was not all his children that we don't really know again, because unfortunately later on these children do die, so we don't have much information about how many were his own children.
Okay.
Nice. Child
Okay.
murder.
So basically, what happened was this dude then went and told. So Holmes went and he was like, "Bro, we have to do this plan." Ben was like, "Nah, I don't want to. I have a whole family and everything." So Holmes was like, "Okay, fine, bro. If you're not gonna fake your death, I'm just gonna kill you and get on with the plan." So he kills him.
He's efficient. You've got to give him that. This is.
So he kills him?
It's pretty
He
horrible, man.
sounds like
I
a
don't know why I'm
Tarantino
laughing.
Yeah. So this guy kills him and then goes and tells his wife. His wife isn't aware of this entire killing.
I'd hope
right?
not.
Right.
Kills him, goes and tells his wife that like, yeah, your husband's still alive, he's just somewhere else, etc., etc.
He's just a troll at this point.
But he then told them. He told them like, you guys, but you and your children like need to leave the house right now.
Okay.
He told them like, we can't stay here, we have to move. So he
Okay.
took 3 of the children with himself, and the wife left with 2 of the other children. And so they escaped. They went to 2 different paths, right? They went to different houses. They lived in different places
Okay.
altogether. And it gets really
But then-
depressing here, because remember I told you about that guy
Yeah,
in
so
jail?
he betrays him, let me
Correct.
guess.
That one guy in jail who, yeah, he betrays him and he tells the insurance officers that like, I had this guy in jail, we planned this. And basically Holmes didn't pay
Yeah.
Marion Hedgepeth, right?
Correct.
So he didn't want anything to do with it, so he snitched on him.
Uh-huh.
And then when Holmes found out that he was being hunted down, he didn't want the children to snitch on him even more than he already had been.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, Holmes killed the 3 children he was with.
My God.
Oh god.
And tried to escape, but then he was caught, arrested, and
A happy ending.
and here's the best part.
So what's the conspiracy?
He was
Okay.
he was not hung for any. Everything in this is actually a conspiracy. We don't know half of this.
Is that the conspiracy that it just
He's
happened
as good as a
long time
legend.
ago?
So wait, you're saying even the part where he went to jail and he had this conversation with what's his name again?
Marion Hedgepeth.
No, that part is true. That part is true. That part. See, here's the thing, right? He was tried in Philadelphia and he was hung for the murder of Ben Pitzel.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, got it. Fine. Yeah, got you.
So this entire part of him going to jail, discussing with that guy, coming out, all of this is true because that's what he was initially arrested for.
Correct.
Nobody knew about his murder hotel and anything.
Mm-hmm.
It was when he was tried, he confessed to 27 murders.
All right.
And then the judges decided to fact check him. And they were like, bro, half these people are still alive.
Yeah, that's
Then Holmes was like, yeah, I'm sorry. It's not 27 murders, it was 130.
He confessed to 130
And then-
and
murders.
he was convicted for how many?
He confessed to 130. He was convicted for. He was hung for mainly Pitzel's
enough.
death, but he was convicted for 7 murders.
That's really sad. Okay, this is depressing.
I mean,
and not entertainment.
And
Okay,
here's the
so
best
what's
part,
the
right?
conspiracy
So
really, man?
before he was, wait, it doesn't end here,
Easy.
right? This guy made
Yeah,
money before dying. He sold this entire story to a corporation for $10,000.
that's
My man
he.
was
Wait, he
really
sold
into
his
money.
stories. He sold his movie rights for movies.
He didn't skip a beat. He did skip a beat.
Oh God. I mean, he was consistent. Props for that, but yeah, what a
Very
fucking
consistent.
bastard. Anyways, so is the
And here's the fun part, right? One of his grandchildren. So this is like another theory
so this
associated
is
with this.
all your true.
So
Yeah.
one of his grandchildren, his name was
He
Jeff
didn't change.
Mudgett.
He didn't take the Holmes surname. I mean, like
No, no,
I know,
no.
but you
Holmes was a
can.
fake
But
name.
it
He
was
just wanted
really
to
easy to
become
change
a
your name back then. I'd keep Holmes.
wait. Wait, no. Jeff Mudgett's his grandchild. That's at least like in the
That's even
19th,
sadder.
20th century. I mean. Yeah. So Jeff Mudgett was a lawyer and he was a former commander in the U.S. Naval Reserve. Sorry, it is his great
Okay.
great grandchild. So great great grandchild was pretty sure that his father was Jack the Ripper.
Oh.
Or so we think. We don't know. So basically what happens is so what happened was Mudgett based his assertions on the writings in two diaries he inherited from Holmes, right? So he inherited two diaries from his great great grandfather, and in said diary it is written in detail about Holmes's participation in the murder and mutilation of numerous prostitutes in London.
Uh, I feel like back then you could just murder how many ever hookers you wanted, and people were just like okay with it for some reason. Just they
Yeah.
didn't really put in
So
much.
it was free reign back then.
Uh, oh yeah, so you, so who the people who are interested in these conspiracies about like those true crime people, right?
Wait,
Okay, go
I'm
for
not
it.
done. So Jeff Mudgett also says that the guy who
Yeah.
was hung was not actually H.H. Holmes, but it was another guy Holmes has tricked into going into the gallows in his place.
That's some like next level
Oh.
illusion.
And it was after this that he moved to London and became Jack the Ripper.
So he did all of this. Then he did a.
And do we know who this other guy is? I mean, even though if it was speculated, do we have a name for this other guy who went in instead of H.H.
I
Holmes?
think that's bullshit. I mean, it's not like
No.
grandchildren of famous people have ever tried to cash in on their great grandchildren of famous people have ever tried to cash in on their ancestry being interesting. That's never happened that people just want some money and fame. You know what?
This wasn't about money or fame. This was around the time that multiple people were actually trying to find out who Jack the Ripper was, because we don't have his identity, right?
Correct.
So this guy just simply said, I'm pretty sure it's my great grandfather. He had a diary. He said he murdered a bunch of prostitutes in London.
Which
Again, it's all
kind
just
kind
theories.
of
Nobody knows.
yeah, but I mean it again all comes down to the timeline, right? I don't think
Adds
the
up,
timeline
yeah.
really matched with Jack the Ripper murders.
I mean, it was during the same time, but I don't think it really links up.
Same time.
I mean, if you think about Jack the Ripper, he was like he had his target audience, as Pratosh said, prostitutes and women, right? And he went on a killing spree on the same night, right? Through these
He did it like
streets.
5 times
streets
in
of
a month, in a year or something, and one time he did it.
Yes, correct. So this guy is really obsessed with killing these particular these prostitutes and women. Correct. So I think he'd have a person like that would have the time, the date, and the and how did he do it? All this written down in. He would have a record of it. and H.H. Holmes' diary. I mean, whatever you're saying, this diary saying that he killed a couple of prostitutes. I don't think really, puts in a
It
picture that
doesn't
he
match with
is.
the
I
behavior
mean,
for
if you
sure.
look at
Yeah.
it, H.H. Holmes was a product killer. The kill was fine. He liked what he did to the stuff afterward, whereas with Jack the Ripper, it's clearly the process where he just obliterates them. At least that's what I think.
Yeah, so mhm. So I think we can
Next
move on to
topic,
the next theory.
this
I don't
was
want to
pretty-
linger on this. Yeah. Who
Okay,
wants to
we
go
left-
next?
Yeah, I think I'll move on. Yes, I'll
Absolutely.
pick it up from here. All right, so this is, I mean, it's well spoken about. There are many YouTube videos out there. There are many theories out there. So okay, so I'm gonna be talking about the simulation theory. So, yeah, this theory is spoken a lot about. There are many YouTube videos. There are so many people talking about it. But at the end of the day, that it's eventually the same thing. So I'll just go into a little bit into it, and I picked up two principles, which are they're well spoken about. So again, I'm going to be speaking about. I don't know what happened there. I genuinely don't know what happened there. I got so carried away. I lost in between.
Today I would like to
Bro.
speak.
You just went
Bro,
on and on.
we're not giving one.
I would like to
We're not
speak
giving
about
one
it.
lecture to
No,
the crowd.
I
Shooting
got-
the shit.
I got carried away, and then I realized I didn't mention my theory. What am I saying?
Bro, I'm not editing this.
Yeah.
This is gold. No.
Shut
We
up,
just
I'll
went
kill you.
on and on and on. I mean, dude, we're just fucking shooting the shit.
He just, bro, he got
Yeah, it's
stuck
like,
in a simulation.
you know what, guys? Today I'm going to talk about a not so commonly spoken about theory. The world is a simulation, you see. Not so common. Okay, go on.
Okay.
Okay.
Go on.
Rushil,
Go on.
anyways,
Take it.
yes.
Take it. We just do this.
I'll start again.
Continue.
I'll start
Just
again.
continue. Just tell us what you're talking about.
Okay, so simulation theory. So there are two main theories that people mainly talk about. It's the 5 principles of Nick Bostrom, and there's a book written by Jean Baudrillard. It's called Simulacra and Simulation, and the book Simulacra and Simulation is Matrix. The movie Matrix takes mostly the entire storyline is mostly from the book, and we get to see the book as well in the movie. And let me just give a credit to these people where I've taken this content from. And there's this German channel, I'm not pretty sure how to pronounce it, Kurzgesagt, I guess, I don't know. Kurzgesagt, yes.
Okay.
And then of course the Jean Baudrillard is definitely from PewDiePie. I'm pretty sure many people have seen that video, but
It's a PewDiePie video. You
I
don't have to
think,
shout him
Nick
out.
Bostrom
I
is
think people know him.
Okay, so
I'd like to
I
shout
mean,
out PewDiePie
let's-
because he's a small
no,
channel.
I'm not shouting
that
out. I'm giving him
requires
credit,
growth.
man. I'm
I
giving
know,
him credit.
I know.
I'm giving him
Yeah, you're
credit.
giving him credit.
Yeah.
Small time YouTuber out there.
See if the image I sent you is.
Okay, so I mean, yeah. So for simulation theory talks about the possibility of we're already living in a simulation. I mean, the pace at which our technology is progressing in the past few decades, it shouldn't be a big surprise that in a few years or something someone just pops up and says, yeah, we humans are capable of simulating a universe or something like that. And that begs the question of what if we already are in a simulation, correct? So I mean then again
This is some
again,
prime
let's see.
stoner talk.
A human brain.
So Rushil, so
Yes.
suppose you were the guy who was making a simulation, right? Suppose like it's 300 years in the future,
Correct.
and you managed to
Sure.
come up with a technology to simulate an entire universe. Would you want the end goal of
Sure.
that universe for a species to come
Have
up
TikTok.
and create another simulation within it? No. No.
Yeah, that's why there are so many contradictions. Nick Bostrom has these 5 principles. He says that we are in a simulation if these 5 principles are true. But then every time this guy is mentioning the principles, he's also giving a contradictory point. So you'll get to know. So obviously, what is consciousness, right? Consciousness is pretty complex. No one knows what it is. But if you were to simulate a brain and its consciousness, and again Nick Bostrom comes back to this point where he says brains are pretty complex, and we cannot simulate a brain or a consciousness. So say for 1 second of 1 second of a brain activity takes around 10 to the power 17 operations, and let's just say 10 to the power 20 operations per human. But
Could you
again,
explain
we're
that to
not
me in detail,
creating
because
we're
I'm
not
pretty
simulating.
stupid, so can you go over that? 10 to the power
So-
17.
Hold on,
Sorry?
hold on. So,
Okay, so see, you do you know the fact that our brain is faster than a supercomputer?
Not with the way mine works sometimes, but okay, yeah.
So our brain does more operations in 1 second compared to a supercomputer,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, so we can say our brain is a supercomputer or something like that. I don't know. So now if someone were to simulate a universe, we're not just simulating one human, correct? We're simulating a planet, a complete universe. So that will take a lot of operations. You need to simulate a lot of operations. You need to simulate trillions of operations. And Nick Bostrom says this is with the physics that we all know, this is impossible. But we are talking about simulation theory, which is completely, as you said, a stoner talk. Nick Bostrom also says, what if that computer is possible? And that was his first principle, which says what we can create consciousness, we can simulate consciousness. And his second principle is, or second point is, the tech progress, the progression of tech in the coming future is not going to stop. It is not going to stop. We're still gonna evolve in terms of technology, and the progress and the development of civilization in a few years, if we were to live in a simulation, it's beyond our current level of perception. So we don't know what our future is. We're gonna work on it, and we're gonna try to get to future of what we think. And again, as he said that the computer which we cannot build to simulate those many operations, there is a theory to it where there is a computer which is called the Matryoshka brain. It's called the Matryoshka brain, and it is a theory. I'm not pretty sure about the nomenclature, but then that's
Okay.
what it's called. It's called a Matryoshka brain, and it's a theoretical computer which is set to handle all the operations that is needed to simulate, such millions of humanities at the
so
same time.
basically, in short,
But again,
the issue is
yeah,
the first issue is we should have a computer that could simulate human consciousness to begin with.
exactly.
I mean,
So
but
if
quick
that is
question,
true-
guys. Quick
Exactly.
question. What does the Bible say about this? That's what
The
I
Bible
thought.
doesn't agree with this.
I'm just saying, God doesn't approve of your simulation, bro. It's not fair.
Where?
We were at why this cannot be run by the Matryoshka.
Yeah, we need to go to second principle, Rushil.
And
Start with second
Rushil,
principle.
the second principle.
Yeah. I know where. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know where I stopped. So yeah, the second principle. So he talks about how the tech progress isn't going to stop soon, and the development of civilization in our future years, it cannot be perceived. It's beyond our current level of perception, because who knows what might happen, and also to talk about the computer to run such operations. It's not quite possible, but there is a theory about it, and it's called the Matryoshka brain. And this is a computer which is set to handle all operations efficiently, which can simulate millions of humanities at the same time. But again, it's a brain, it's a computer. Someone needs to build it. So that's completely impossible.
Really?
so so I added that. So when I read about this, I'm like, listen, at the end someone still needs to build it. So you just can't have a computer which can do that, right? So that's his second principle. And the third principle, this one I don't quite get, but I'll just drop it in because it's still part of his
Wait, I'm confused.
Okay,
Hold
okay,
on.
so you
He
need to
says-
build a
First principle-
computer that can emulate a brain, but you can't do that. So doesn't the theory fall apart just then and there?
Yeah, no, he says that he mentions that simulation theory is he's saying is not impossible, but then at the same time he's saying it's pretty stupid. So every single time he's mentioning the principle is also mentioning a contradictory point to it. So he's not trying to prove himself that we are living in a simulation. He's just he's mentioning certain points, saying that it might be possible because maybe this guy's just sitting in his room, just has nothing to do, so he's just smoking pot and he's just writing.
So the long
What?
story
He seems
short
to be on a
is,
drip of he just seems to be doing rails of cocaine, just non-stop. He's like, first rule, okay. Second rule, just.
No, but it's
It's
pretty
intriguing,
fascinating,
yeah,
right? Even though even if
it
you're
is
sitting
very
on your own,
intriguing, yeah.
even if you're sitting on your own and you're writing all these principles, it's pretty interesting.
Oh, also I found the greatest Reddit community while you were talking. It's called "Are We Living in a Simulation?" r/Are We Living in a Simulation? And it's a bunch of people who are taking it dead seriously that we're living in a simulation.
Okay.
It's you have to check this shit out.
yeah. So
As
Rushil,
in, yeah, Rushil, go on.
Rushil.
Yeah, Pratosh. Yes, Pratosh.
So the basic thing is, theory is that we are possibly living in a simulation, and for this simulation, for this entire theory to be true, certain other things need to also
Yes.
be ticked correct, right?
Correct.
So for us to live in a simulation, theory A, we should have a computer that can simulate this, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, these are the 5 principles he's talking about.
I mean, honestly, you could go on more than 5 principles. There have to be a lot of things that
Yeah.
have to turn out true.
I mean, this guy just summed it up into these small points, and he just talked about it. I mean, I'm just starting off with Nick Bostrom because it's not really plausible. I'm not quite into it. Jean Baudrillard, he talks a lot. He talks a lot more convincing, right? So, anyways, let me just get done with this Nick Bostrom principles. Anyways, so the third thing he says that advanced civilizations don't destroy themselves, and there are many alien civilizations present, but we don't see anybody, and and we don't destroy each other. That's because there is something called great filters such as nuclear wars or global warming or anything like that. We need to overcome these so-called great filters so that we can basically destroy ourselves. But he says that once we destroy ourselves, the complete simulation theory falls apart, because if you're a simulation, you really can't destroy yourself, can you?
What if the purpose of the simulation?
Only if the person running the computer trips over the wire which connects the computer. Otherwise, you can't really destroy yourself. But if you are able to destroy yourself at some point, say nuclear wars,
Wait, Rushil,
that there is no simulation.
what if the purpose of the simulation is to eventually end itself?
Then why would someone build a computer and plug in, do some trillions of codes and operations and simulate it to end it?
What if he's just
If
into
they
that
really
kind of
want to
stuff?
end it,
So what you're saying,
I mean, yeah,
the
sure.
end game is
It
just
might
nothing?
be.
I am so
Gives
confused.
them a peace
Yeah,
of mind.
I'm saying if we are in a simulation,
Yeah, just
if we
like
are in a simulation,
in
there
case he
is no
doesn't
end
really
game.
want to believe that we're in a simulation, he can always just destroy it, and he's like, "Yeah, guys, it's okay. We're not in a civilization, guys. We live in a society, you see." It's just fuck.
So basically, the third principle is the society in the
principle-
simulation shouldn't be able to destroy themselves.
Yeah, the civilization won't
Correct.
destroy itself.
Yes.
Society falls apart all the time. I mean,
Fourth point,
I've dropped a link in the chat. Just check it out. It's what I know. Rushil's put forward these thoughts in a pretty good manner, which makes them sound not laughable. But these are the people who believe in it. So it's just the most beautiful thing. 99.999999999. That's more nines than Hitler said.
Yeah, that's
Percent
exactly
of
where
your
I was
body's
coming.
empty space.
So,
It's just some days you must.
so yeah, this is kind of similar. See, and also one thing which backs up simulation theory is because even though to create millions of humanities, you really don't have to build everything from its core, right? You just have to make sure that the person or the human seeing something just has to see what he has to see. So like basically, if you look outside a window, and you want to see the symbol, the creator wants his creations to see a certain thing. He just have to he basically think holograms. He just has to project something.
So our reality is
And
just his
also,
creation, basically.
So at the end of the day, this
exactly.
comes down
So
to
it talks about
a god. Is that what we're trying to prove here? Because them saying this is a simulation, who's simulating it? Who has that kind of time? That's my question.
exactly. We don't know. Might be some other alien species
Or
who
really, really
who are
bored.
way ahead of time, or what we can really.
They're just like, you know what? Let's just play this new sandbox game. It's called Earth.
Hey, maybe we are a game.
And
you
it
never know.
explains a lot. It explains the internet pretty well. I mean, it's just sometimes the way people behave, you've got to be convinced that those are the same people who'd like try to blow shit up in GTA for no reason. I think that's just what the internet is at the end of the day. That's got really meta.
Yeah. So, moving on for the fourth principle, he says that super advanced civilizations want to control civilization. You know, there is this thing. I think it's malagomaniac. Is it
Megalomaniac?
Glagomaniac?
Megalomaniac.
Megalomaniac? Is that
It's
what
a
it's called?
megalomaniac.
What?
Megalomaniac.
Megalomaniac.
Yeah.
Megalomaniac.
Okay. Okay, it's a thing where someone wants to be the head of something, right? They want to. I think that's what it is. Let me just.
A megalomaniac?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
I mean,
basically
it's just somebody wants to be
excessive
in
need for
control, right?
admiration and stuff.
Megalomaniac? I mean,
Yeah,
like,
they want to control stuff.
think like Doctor Doom. I mean, I can't think
Bro,
of
just
any.
think of anybody who wants.
Yeah, so no, basically narcissistic personality disorder is what it's called.
Yeah.
Characterized by a long-term pattern of exaggerative. Basically, it's the personality disorder where someone wants to be, they want to control something. They even while they're controlling, they want empathy. They want excessive need. They have an excessive need for attention from the people he's controlling. So I think so. This is pretty similar, where he says that super advanced civilization want to control a civilization. So think about it like this: we humans, we have an amusement park, right? So this is called the ant and amusement park theory, where we are humans. We have an amusement park theory, and an ant comes and asks, "Yo, bro, what's happening? What is all this?" And you tell that, yeah, you buy a ticket, you go and you ride roller coasters and stuff like that. You go. Now the ant listens to all this and goes and thinks, and he doesn't. The ant doesn't understand what is the point of all this. I mean, we get fun out of it, but does the ant really need fun? Like, does it understand what fun is? Does it understand what it is? Like, it doesn't understand what's happening. But since we humans are telling ant to do this particular thing, he'll go and do it. In the same way, in the coming future, if the technology persists in the same pace or even accelerated growth, there might be superhumans, right? And we won't even notice. These superhumans might exist, and in the future, someone will, get on to the curiosity of thinking, oh wait, what if there is a simulation, and what if I am in control of it? And maybe these superhumans think more and they do more research, and then when they find out it is the simulation, and they get all these technology in their hands, and they can head a simulation.
Okay.
These super advanced civilizations, the superhumans, become the megalomaniacs or whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
And
so
megalomaniacs.
megalomaniac
Right.
is like. Let me just try and explain this in the stupidest way I could to myself. So they're like a Twitch
go ahead.
thought to The Sims.
Yeah, sure.
That's
yeah,
the best way I can
exactly.
explain it.
It's been 5 minutes since I've gotten a donation, guys.
It's 5 minutes since I've gotten a donation. What do you think? This content is free?
Is this content for free?
So
That's
now
Do you
you
that's
not
don't like
respect
my.
me as a content creator?
Yeah, you saw that lady
I
on
can't put
Twitch,
it in
right? The
better
one who's
words.
begging for
I can't put it
donations.
in better
God, I
words.
hate her.
Yeah.
I mean, like, God, yeah, nobody respects you as a content creator, and that's not going to change now. Okay, it's been five
Right,
minutes since
Rushil,
I've got a
go on.
sub. Shut the fuck up. Yeah, go on,
Yeah.
Rushil. Just finish your last 2 points.
So yeah, so this is the last principle of Nick Bostrom's, and he talks about, okay, if the previous three or the four or the three principles are found to be true, that means you're not in just one simulation. There might be a lot of simulations, and you are in one. So, and again he talks about how post-humans or the superhumans are capable of running a simulation, and they can basically run an entire universe relative to each virtual humanity. Like what you see because that creator is basically creating stuff for you to see. That's all. So that kind of tells that there are no doubt there are trillions of humanities that are already being simulated, and that proves that consciousness is also simulated, and we are living in a time where we don't know or how to we don't know how to define what consciousness is. So I think I've read this, I've seen some videos about this, and I think this is very vague of a theory when what Nick Bostrom talks about. And um, and the second thing which I chose was, of course, the Jean Baudrillard's theory, and I've named this the Matrix theory because the entire movie, The Matrix, is based upon this. And so again, he starts off. The Jean Baudrillard talks about the same thing. How about how tech is progressing, and even Neil deGrasse Tyson talks about this. It might not be that difficult, or might not be that surprising if someone is simulating a universe, and it shouldn't be that crazy. And to start off, Jean Baudrillard talks about the small theory called the Plato's allegory of the
The
cave.
what now?
uh, the Plato's allegory of the cave. I'll just bring up a picture.
Okay.
So
If you're
Plato's
watching on
allegory of the
YouTube, we'll
cave.
probably put this up on the screen.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're on the visual part of this podcast, then yeah, you should know.
I found all of this really interesting, but I'd just like to
Fine.
bring up this one thing because if you go on Reddit and search up r/simulation theory, because I believe that Reddit is just the festering place for all of this type of stuff. Uh, the you know how every subreddit has rules, right? Okay, the first one is
Yeah.
site-wide rules apply at all times, so that's fair enough. The second one is contribution to mental disorder-based paranoia. It's let it be known that any and all attempts from persons diagnosed or undiagnosed with a mental disorder that involves paranoia as a major symptom shall not attempt to contribute to this paranoia. It's just schizophrenia and psychosis are
I
real.
mean,
This rule is taken with the utmost seriousness. So basically, they've
I mean,
banned retarded
Reddit
people.
is a very scary place, right? So that rule really
Yeah, I
doesn't
know.
bother me.
Yeah, I mean, who knows how many psychos are out there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, I'll just talk about this is
Okay,
pretty
bring it.
interesting actually. So the Plato's allegory theory, Plato's allegory of the cave. So say since birth you're chained in a cave, you're immobilized, you can't do anything. Only thing you can see is a wall in front of you, and there are people standing behind another wall, and they're casting certain shadows, and the people who are immobilized can see only these shadows that are being casted, and the people who are casting them, they walk, right, and the footsteps and the sounds they produce are being perceived by these immobilized people, saying that, okay, yeah, these sounds are coming from the shadows, right. Now say one prisoner escapes and he goes outside the cave, and once he gets outside and he sees completely different world that he's not used to, because since birth he's been in that cave, like he knows nothing but those shadows and those sounds, right. So now what happens is reality gets distorted.
That's
Complete
actually pretty
reality gets
interesting.
distorted.
Like, similarly, would you
Yeah.
believe that a
So
blind person
yeah.
who's
So
been blind all their life, or deaf person, gets that sense back? I know it's not possible most of the time, but if they do, would that be similar?
I mean, little similar because a blind person is just perceiving things in his own brain. He's not seeing stuff, but these people have been seeing stuff, and this is what they thought was their reality. Blind people know that there is another reality that they completely don't know about. But it's pretty sure, I mean, they might be thinking that there is something else, and once they gain their eyesight and maybe for a day or two get used to stuff, but then I'm pretty sure they'll get used to it. But this case is pretty interesting because the reality of what they think, the perception gets distorted, and this is exactly what happens in the Matrix. If
Of course, I've
people have
seen
not
the
seen the
Matrix.
movie, and
Who
yeah,
hasn't watched
so
Matrix?
So,
Neo is the
the
name.
one, yeah.
When he's during night is he's hacking, right? So that's his name. So Neo can't tell if he's in a Matrix until he takes the famously known red pill, correct? So
He becomes a redditor.
in the same
He
way,
just rises up, he gets disillusioned. Just
so uh, so to talk about the Matrix is a hyperreality. So what is hyperreality? Hyperreality can be defined as the unconscious inability to distinguish reality from a simulation of reality. So in the movie, of course, the real world is in ruins, where Neo lives in a simulacrum. Now, simulacrum is something when you start accepting the simulation as your reality. Right. So the idea of a simulation being perceived as one's own reality is well described in Simulacra and Simulation, written by Jean Baudrillard. Now there is something Jean Baudrillard takes up this older work of fiction and tries to talk about it. He talks about a map, and he tries to basically define or explain what a simulacrum is, but it's a bit boring, so I'm not going to get into it. I'm just going to jump to the
okay.
main points here. So basically what he says is once they made a map which completely matches the territory, but while the time progresses, the world or the territory also deteriorates or improves or whatever, but the map remains the same, right? But if you give that map to people who are in a desert, who they don't know what the other thing, think that they're chained over there, they're immobilized in a desert, they think that's what the reality is, and you give them the map and you say that you ordered them, yeah, this is how your desert looks, and you need to accept this map for what it is and see that desert as it is, right? Now those people take up this map and accept it as their reality. Now this is a simulacrum. You see what's happening? They think the map is their simulation, and now it's become the simulacrum because they started accepting that to be the reality. So according to Baudrillard, we are all living in hyper reality because we talk about simulation, but do we
What a
really know?
simulation is.
Because we don't know. Yeah, we
I
don't know what a
mean,
simulation
this
is, or
this
we
is
don't
like
know
the
if it is
part three of the
not there or
Matrix, the
anything.
part where they stop fighting, having all the cool fight scenes, and just talking for like a year on end.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. So again, although simulacra and simulation is again connected to technology and talks about how we can create a simulation, it's also possible that hyperreality or simulacra is something that it can take place. It can take place in space beyond our physical
So the whole
limits,
simulation
right? It's
theory comes
somewhere an
into
energy and something like that.
you know that flat earthers are also like they come in like three types, right? There's the Christian types or the religious types, not necessarily Christian, who believe that the earth is flat because it was made by God. Then there's the super woke atheist types who are like the earth is just flat because the line doesn't go that far, or because they can't prove, because they're like lasers would bend otherwise.
Yeah, I
Fucking
get you.
idiots. And then there's my
Yeah, I
favorite.
get you. Yeah.
They're the ones who believe in this thing called the dome earth theory, where everything is made by these people called the
Oh.
dome builders. It's the goddamn funniest thing I've ever seen. So they believe. Have you seen the Stephen King book, or have you read the Stephen King book, or have you seen the TV show Under the Dome? Under the Dome.
What is it called again?
Okay, I'll send you
No,
the
no,
link
no.
in the group. It's also there's a show, but the best thing is what you have to do is okay. So the thing with Dome theory is like these guys believe that everything is a simulation, and so at the end they just end up like these nihilistic people who believe that they're smarter and woker than everyone. Because, I mean, if you think about it, right, what do you get from knowing that the Earth is flat or not? That's again just again, it's
Yeah,
just being like,
true.
yeah, I know this,
Exactly.
you don't know this, haha.
I mean,
Yeah.
it works, right? So, see, there are these flat earthers and
Yeah.
arguing that the earth is flat, which again is bullshit. But say that it turns out to be true that
What
earth
is
is
it
really
again?
flat. And there is this huge population. There's this huge population that used to think, or used to think
Yeah.
that earth is round, right? And now they are presented that no, psych, the earth is flat. So now the reality is distorted, the perception is distorted, they don't know what to believe in now, right? So that's what hyperreality talks about. And something like in a space beyond our physical limits, something like that where we can compare already exists for us, and it's money, right? In olden times, the currency was gold. Gold was being
Used for transactions, okay.
transacted, and at the same time, yeah, transaction, yeah. And then slowly money came into picture, and that became the currency, and it's holding the same standard what it used to have then, which is currency. And now money is something, it's a copy with no original.
As in, I'm sorry, I don't.
So that means
I actually
uh,
can't follow with this.
as in like as in like as in like as in like it's similar to what the map theory talks about. See, like, okay, see, money, every money has its
Yeah.
own serial number,
Every
right?
note.
But there are millions of
Yeah.
50 rupee notes. It's a copy, everything is a copy of each. But then you pick up a note, you don't have the serial number is different, so that makes it a copy with no original.
Okay, so that
So where
way.
did you start and
Yeah,
where are
okay,
you
that
ending? You have no
explains it.
idea.
All right, I think.
Yeah. So now that, yeah, so that makes it your simulacrum. So then Jean Baudrillard just stops talking about what is this and what is simulation and everything, and he just says that it's better if we concentrate on doing what it is to save and preserve what our reality is, instead of arguing if we are in the real, the original part. Because as Morpheus said, what is real and how do you define real?
Yes.
And we need to just move on with our life, with this thought of only saving of what it is, what we feel real, instead of arguing about even if this is reality, even if this turns out to be a simulation. We just have to make sure that we don't distort our perceptions, because that can lead to
Okay,
so
yeah.
much chaos. So yeah, that's the end
Okay,
of my
so
theory. Yeah.
so far we've spoken about like two types of theories, right? Where yours is where the people just want to be so much smarter than everyone, and Pratosh's is where they're like, what if everything combined, right? Yeah, so my type
Yeah.
of theory is a lot simpler. It's let's laugh at the idiots theory. So have you guys seen this? It's actually pretty relevant right now. It's been going around it's been being forwarded around Instagram and even WhatsApp quite a bit actually. Uh, it's mostly super conspiracy nut type people. You know, your Alex Jones crowd, your turning the frogs gay type people, right? And yeah,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
it's that these people have this idea that 5G, 5G, like the internet connectivity type, like what we currently run as 4G, is
Yeah.
causing
Yeah.
coronavirus.
Got it. Yeah.
That's the theory. They're blaming coronavirus for 5G.
Wait, people actually came up
Dude,
with
I'll
something
send you the
like that?
links. Uh, 1 second. Just quickly read this. Actually, I'll just read.
I mean, you're dealing with a scientific being. At least come
Yeah,
up
no,
with
I can build.
scientific.
I mean, those people who are like, this is a bioweapon that they've created. That's okay.
Oh my
Fair
God.
enough. But fair enough. Okay, but I'm just going to read one or two articles. I have a bunch of them booted up. So these people believe that what happened was, they originated in Wuhan, right? Obviously, and as much as I'd like to avoid talking about the virus, it's trending news, and this is my favorite conspiracy theory ever. Okay, so my favorite is the part where these guys are like, so what China did was they started the 5G rollouts in the city of Wuhan. And that's why the virus started there. And what it actually is, it's giving everybody radiation poisoning, which is causing the spread of the disease from person to person, which is just the funniest thing I've ever thought of. Yeah, so the thing with the virus is pretty simple. It's a virus, right, guys? It's just a pandemic. But these people are like, no, we're going to be smarter than everybody. And the problem with that is that they're not smarter than anybody. They're idiots. It's a ludicrous idea that. Okay, so what the theory is that the 5G waves are infecting people, making them sick, like, in Chernobyl. And they're like, it makes people sick like in Chernobyl. And they're like, you know what? The radiation, it travels from person to person. And that's why everybody's sick now. And this is actually truly a government plan to make everybody bow down to the new world order. And it's the stupidest thing ever. Okay, I have two articles, one from the Economic Times, which I'm not a fan of, but I'll use, and my favorite from republicanmatters.com. So it's like breaking. Government admits that 5G is killing you and your family. Dr. Ed. Okay, so I think Dr. Ed is just the name of the doctor. His name's just Ed, first name ED. Join Dr. Ed Group. So his surname's Group. What the fuck? Joins Alex Jones live in studio to expose how 5G cell phone radiation is poisoning the population by microwaving our cells/DNA to prevent people from reproducing the human species.
So hold on. Do these people believe that the
What?
virus was caused by the
Yeah, so-
radiation? Or do they believe that everything that's happening now is because of the radiation
No,
and
it's
there's
because
no
of the
virus?
radiation and that there's no virus. So the whole 5G theory was happening like
Oh.
2 years back, thanks to our.
But excuse me, 5G doesn't even
Yeah, doesn't
exist in
matter.
India.
So what they're saying is that the irradiated people are transferring the radiation to everyone, which is what's making everyone really sick.
Wow.
It's just
10 on 10. 10
Such
on 10.
bull,
okay. This
man.
is by Alex Jones. This is the whole article.
I mean, see, if you're talking about, corona, the virus being used as a
Fair enough.
bioweapon, I
It's
mean,
China.
see, I don't believe it, but is it plausible?
China.
Sure. I mean,
Maybe they accidentally launched it
okay.
on themselves.
Yeah.
Who knows? Have you guys heard about the great? I mean, I wouldn't put it beyond China. Have you guys heard about the movement called the Great Leap Forward? Okay, so
Nope.
it's this thing that back when China was super communist, their dictator, I forgot the guy's name, maybe it was Zedong, maybe it was the guy after him, I'm not sure. So basically, he saw birds, like, which were eating all of the crops
Oh,
and shitting
yeah,
everywhere.
yeah.
And they're like, you know what, birds don't do anything good, so let's do this thing called wipe out the birds. So they're like, the public all got together. Like how when we have community festivals, everyone comes out together, organizes things together, and like celebrates, right? So they kind of did that. There was that whole camaraderie feeling, and so what the Chinese people did was like, yeah, we're one. We will do this together. So they killed all the birds. Just they went out during the day and killed birds, and so the bird population dropped. It absolutely. They basically wiped out the entire population of birds in China, and so guess what happened? Because the problem they had initially was that the birds dirty places and also eat all their crops, right? And so now the insect population skyrocketed. They ate all the crops, and then everybody starved and died. So that was just the funniest thing I could think of for a while. Oh yeah, so here's another great article I found. It's a bioweapon or effects of 5G, 7 conspiracies around coronavirus that'll shock you. And my favorite one is the thing where it's the effects of 5G. It's basically saying that American pop singer on Twitter said that 5G caused coronavirus, and then suddenly,
Yeah, someone with 4 million followers that too on
yeah, I've
Twitter.
never heard of her, Carrie Hilson. So I'm assuming she's a fairly popular pop singer. So she tweets out that there's a connection
What?
between 5G and the virus, saying that people have been trying to warn us about 5G for years. Petitions, organizations, studies. What we're going through is the effects of radiation.
I have
some
no
pop
idea
star.
who she is.
5G launched in China, November 1st, 2019. People dropped dead. I mean, she's acting like it's the wrath of God just striking people down from space or whatnot. It's like, yeah, people dropped dead. Several conspiracy theories. I mean,
She got a
people didn't
Grammy as
drop
well. I
dead
have
when the
no
Chernobyl
idea.
plant exploded. They died very painful, slow deaths, but they didn't like, drop dead. I doubt that a few radio waves will do that. Next, several conspiracy theorists also allege that viral videos of people dropping on the ground and fainting in China was not due to the virus, but it was due to 5G radio waves messing with oxygen levels in the blood of the general public. It's just, yeah, yeah, you see what's happening is, and then you've got your standard. I love Alex Jones, man. His show's so entertaining, but it's this kind of stuff that annoys me. Conspiracy theorists are fine. People who are like, you know what, this is just it's like the simulation theory. Doesn't really affect anyone, right? But people who go around spreading shit like 5G is causing coronavirus, and they're like, because these towers, and the whole theory is that the first place they launched it was in Wuhan, and so the radiation altered everyone's blood, which made them very sick, and the radiated blood transferred, then the radiation from one blood went to another and just gave everyone coronavirus somehow. It makes no sense. It, it's
Hey, I'm just looking at
it's
the
just
article
a
which you
fun.
sent me, Adri, and the seventh conspiracy theory, or so-called whatever it is called, it's saying not as dangerous as SARS, but it is
Yeah, of
true,
course
right?
not,
It's
but it's
not as
contagious.
dangerous
So
as
let's
SARS.
just avoid virus talk. I just found it was really funny that people think that cell phones are to blame for it. I want to know how they're going through lockdown. They're just sitting at home staring at a wall or something without the internet. Yeah, so I mean, just how stupid do you have to be? I know this is getting pretty ranty, but it's just 5G radiation is designed to decimate the human population. Who would believe that decimating the human population is ever a good thing? Fuck up. Okay, so I think that's all. It's just these people who really want the superiority complex, right? Like, yeah, I see beyond what the
Yeah.
government tells you. I see beyond everything, right? I know what the virus is. It's a cover up. It's just like, dude, stop, please. The gov the government is
I mean, there are
shady, but
so
like,
many other
yeah, I
theories that
mean,
you
there's
can
so many
speak
more.
about, how there's chemicals in your
What, fluoride?
toothpaste and
Yeah, fluoride makes you
pigeons
stupider.
being,
That's
yeah,
actually
fluoride,
kind of
yeah,
true, though.
yeah, exactly.
I,
There is actually
I
some
mean,
basis for
Alex
that theory,
Jones,
though.
believe it or not, I mean, Alex Jones believes that there are 7 dimensions, and like one of them's filled with pedophile vampires who run the government in
Huh?
across the world or something. And then of course there's his standard rhetoric, which I'm not going to bring up for obvious reasons.
Alex Jones is a
I
character.
love him, Alex Jones, man. His show is so entertaining. Like, he'll be yelling about how the world's about to end, and then 2 seconds later, you guys need to buy my new bone juice or something like that, which will make you really buff really fast. And it's just the most amazing thing I can believe. And so, yeah, it's usually these guys with their conspiracy theories.
I think,
I think
I mean,
we're all
yeah,
done
I
for
think
today.
we've hit what, like an hour and 15.
yeah, I mean, just a small
Stay at
PSA,
home.
putting it out there. Just
Yeah,
stay home and
stay safe.
man.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
Wash your hands.
hands. See you next time when we talk about less depressing topics, hopefully.
Yes.
Right.
Let us talk about our individual relationships
Alright.
that we've had in the
Ah,
past.
yeah, that's just going to be me muting my mic for an hour and a half, man. Okay. Okay.
All right.
That's sad. Anyways,
Thank you for tuning
right,
in,
thanks
guys.
for tuning in. You can find us on Spotify and YouTube, maybe. Goodbye. Good night. Sleep well.
Good night. Okay, fine. Okay, good night. Okay,
Alright.
fine. Okay. Why good night?
Fuck.
Just goodbye.
Goodbye. See ya. Ciao. We're leaving that in.